Hashtag a mail-order bride arrived in chains, and the quiet rancher broke each link before dawn. The first light of dawn crept across the plains, touching the weathered fence posts of the Hayes Ranch. A wagon approached, its wheels grinding against the dirt road. In the back, a woman sat hunched, heavy iron chains binding her wrists and ankles. Her dress was travel-worn, her face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. The driver, a man with tobacco-stained teeth, flicked the reins without looking back at his cargo. Samuel Hayes stood on his porch, one hand resting on the support beam, the other holding a telegram. The paper had arrived 3 weeks earlier, confirming the arrangement. A wife from back east. Someone to share his table with. Someone to break 20 years of silence. He hadn't expected chains. The wagon stopped in the yard. Dust settled around the wheels. The driver spat a stream of brown juice into the dirt. "Got your bride," he said. "Paid for and delivered." Samuel stepped down from the porch. His boots made no sound in the soft earth. He was a tall man, lean from years of hard work, his face creased by sun and wind. At 58, his dark hair had gone mostly gray, but his eyes remained clear and steady. "Take those chains off her," Samuel said. The driver shrugged. "Can't do that. She's a runner. Tried to jump off twice between Denver and here." He tossed a small iron key that glinted in the morning light. "She's your problem now." Samuel caught the key, closed his fist around it. "Get off my land." The driver smirked, flicked the reins, and the wagon rolled away, leaving the woman sitting in the dirt. She still hadn't looked up. Samuel approached slowly, the way he might approach a wounded animal. He crouched down a few feet away from her. "My name is Samuel Hayes," he said. "This is my ranch." She raised her head then. Her face was thin, with high cheekbones and eyes the color of stormy skies. A bruise darkened one cheek. "Clara Wilson," she said. Her voice was dry as prairie grass. "Though I suppose it's Hayes now." Samuel nodded toward the chains. "Did you agree to this?" A bitter smile touched her lips. "I agreed to be a mail-order bride." The chains were, in addition. Samuel stood and offered his hand. "Come inside. We'll get those off you." The chains rattled as she struggled to stand. Samuel didn't rush her. When she was upright, he led her toward the house, matching his pace to her hobbled steps. The Hayes Ranch house was small but solid, built by Samuel's own hands 15 years earlier. 2 rooms downstairs, one up, a stone fireplace. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with worn volumes. Everything was clean, orderly, nothing fancy. Clara stood just inside the door, taking in her surroundings. Her eyes lingered on the books. Samuel filled a basin with water from a pitcher. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a wooden chair by the table. She sat, chains clinking. Samuel knelt before her with the basin and a clean cloth. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to her ankles. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. Samuel lifted the hem of her dress just enough to expose the iron cuffs. The skin beneath was raw and bleeding. He washed each wound carefully, then unlocked the cuffs. He did the same with her wrists, handling her with the same gentle attention he'd give to a newborn calf. When the chains lay on the floor, Clara rubbed her wrists, looking at the metal with undisguised hatred. "Thank you," she said. Samuel gathered the chains. "I'll be back," he said, and walked outside. Behind the house, at his workbench, Samuel laid out the chains. He selected a heavy hammer and a chisel. With methodical precision, he began to break each link. The sound of metal striking metal echoed across the yard. Inside, Clara explored the house. She ran her fingers along the book spines, examined the few photographs on the mantel. A younger Samuel with an older couple, presumably his parents. Samuel beside a woman with laughing eyes. Clara studied this one longest. When Samuel returned, Clara was seated at the table, her hands folded in her lap. "I broke them," he said simply. She nodded, understanding the gesture for what it was. "Are you hungry?" he asked. "Yes." Samuel moved to the stove and stirred the embers. He added wood, then set a pan to heat. He worked with efficient movements, cracking eggs into the pan, slicing bread. "The telegram said you were a widow," Samuel said, his back to her. "I am. From Baltimore." "Yes." Samuel placed a plate before her. Fried eggs, bread, a small portion of beans. "Why did you come west?" Clara picked up her fork. "There was nothing left for me there." They ate in silence. When they finished, Samuel took the plates to the wash basin. "I'll show you the rest of the place," he said. Outside, the sun had climbed higher. Samuel pointed out the barn, the chicken coop, the vegetable garden, the well. Clara followed a step behind, taking it all in. "It's not much," Samuel said, "but it's mine. Paid for." It's more than I had, Clara replied. At the corral, 2 horses watched them approach. Samuel whistled softly, and a chestnut mare trotted over. This is Penny, Samuel said, stroking the horse's nose. She's gentle. She'll be yours, if you want to learn to ride. Clara reached out tentatively. The mare snuffled at her palm. I'd like that, she said. That night, Samuel made up a bed for himself on the floor downstairs. He gave Clara the bedroom. I'll build on another room, he said. Until then, you'll have your privacy. Clara stood at the foot of the stairs, uncertainty in her posture. Mr. Hayes. Samuel, he corrected. Samuel, I don't understand what you want from me. Samuel considered her question. Company, maybe. Someone to share the work. In time, perhaps more. He met her eyes. But nothing you don't freely give. Clara nodded slowly. Good night, then. Good night, Clara. In the darkness, Samuel listened to her footsteps overhead, the creak of the bed as she lay down. He stared at the ceiling for a long time before sleep found him. Dawn came with the crowing of roosters. Samuel rose, built up the fire, put coffee on to boil. He was at the table with a steaming cup when Clara came downstairs. She'd washed her face and combed her hair, which fell in dark waves past her shoulders. Coffee, Samuel offered. Please. He poured her a cup. They drank in companionable silence. I need to check the north pasture today, Samuel said. Would you like to come along? I could show you more of the land. Clara hesitated, then nodded. I would. After breakfast, Samuel saddled 2 horses. He helped Clara mount Penny, showed her how to hold the reins. He rode beside her, a steady presence as she adjusted to the rhythm of the horse's gait. They rode across open grassland, the wind bending the stalks in waves. Samuel pointed out landmarks, a lightning-struck tree, a rocky outcropping, a stream that ran year-round. Clara took it all in, her face gradually relaxing in the open air. At the north pasture, they dismounted. Samuel checked the fence line while Clara wandered a few yards away, stooping occasionally to examine wildflowers. It's beautiful here, she said when he rejoined her. It can be hard, too, Samuel replied. Winters are long. Summers are dry. It takes grit to make it. Clara straightened, met his gaze. I have grit, Mr. Hayes. A smile touched his eyes. I believe you do. Days passed in a similar fashion. Samuel showed Clara the workings of the ranch. She learned to collect eggs, to milk the cow, to tend the garden. In the evenings, they sat by the fire. Sometimes Samuel read aloud from one of his books. Sometimes they just sat in silence. A week after her arrival, Clara found Samuel at his workbench, crafting a new chair. May I ask you something, she said. Samuel set down his tools. Of course. The woman in the photograph. Who was she? Samuel's face grew still. My wife. Margaret. What happened to her? Samuel ran a hand along the wood grain. Fever. 19 years ago. Clara nodded, understanding in her eyes. My husband died in an accident at the factory where he worked. 3 years ago. Samuel picked up his tools again. I'm sorry. As am I. Clara watched him work for a moment. Would you teach me to read? Samuel looked up, surprised. You don't know how? Clara shook her head. Never had the chance. That evening, they sat side by side at the table, a book open before them. Samuel guided her through the alphabet, patient with her frustration. When she correctly read her first simple sentence, the pride in her eyes made something shift in Samuel's chest. 2 weeks into Clara's stay, a thunderstorm rolled across the plains. The rain came down in sheets, drumming on the roof. Lightning split the sky, followed by booming thunder. Clara sat by the window, watching the storm with wide eyes. I've never seen anything like this, she said. Samuel brought her a cup of tea. Plain storms are something to behold. A particularly loud crack of thunder made Clara jump. She laughed nervously. In the city, the buildings block the sky. You don't feel so exposed. Out here, there's nowhere to hide from nature, Samuel agreed. You learn to respect it. Clara sipped her tea. Is that why you came here? To be exposed to the elements? Samuel considered her question. I came because the land was affordable and I wanted something that was mine alone. He paused. Staying was a different choice. And why did you stay? Samuel looked out at the rain. Because even in its harshness, there's an honesty to this place. The land doesn't lie to you. It demands everything and promises nothing, but at least you know where you stand. Clara nodded slowly. I can understand that appeal. That night, Samuel woke to the sound of crying. He rose and climbed the stairs, pausing outside Clara's door. Clara, he called softly. The crying stopped. After a moment, she opened the door. Her face was tear-streaked, her eyes red. I'm sorry if I woke you, she said. Are you all right? Clara wiped at her cheeks. Just dreams. Bad ones. Samuel nodded. I know something about those. They stood in silence for a moment, the darkness a blanket around them. Would you like me to make some tea? Samuel offered. Clara shook her head. No, but would you sit with me? Just for a while. Samuel nodded. Clara led him to the small chair by the window. He sat there while she returned to bed, pulling the quilt up to her chin. Tell me something, she said. Anything. So Samuel told her about his first winter on the ranch, how the snow had drifted higher than the windows, how he'd nearly frozen trying to reach the barn to feed the animals. He spoke until her breathing deepened into sleep. Then he quietly descended the stairs. The next morning, neither mentioned the nighttime encounter. But something had shifted between them, a trust beginning to take root. As the days passed, Clara grew more confident around the ranch. She insisted on taking on more responsibilities, learning to chop wood, to mend fences. Samuel found himself watching her when she wasn't looking, noting the strength in her slim arms, the determination in her face. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Clara spoke. I wasn't entirely truthful with you, she said. Samuel waited, giving her space to continue. My husband didn't die in an accident. He died in prison. Clara's hands twisted in her lap. He was a violent man. He hurt me. Often. The last time, I fought back. He fell, hit his head. They said it was self-defense, but his family. She took a shaky breath. They made sure everyone knew their version of events. No one would hire me. No one would rent to me. Samuel's voice was gentle. So you answered my advertisement. Clara nodded. The agency said you were a widower. Quiet. Respectable. I thought. She shrugged. I thought it couldn't be worse than what I was leaving behind. And the chains. Clara's face hardened. The man who arranged the marriages. He decided I was too much trouble. Said he needed to ensure I'd reach my destination. Her voice dropped. He wasn't the first man to decide I needed to be controlled. Samuel's hands clenched into fists, then deliberately relaxed. No one will chain you here, Clara. Not ever again. Clara met his eyes. I believe you. The next day, Samuel rode into town for supplies. At the general store, he selected fabric, needles, thread. The shopkeeper's wife raised an eyebrow. Heard you got yourself a mail-order bride, Hayes, she said. Samuel nodded, adding sugar and coffee to his purchases. What's she like, then? She's a good woman, Samuel said simply. The shopkeeper's wife sniffed. Well, I hope she works out better than some I've heard about. Running off, or worse. Samuel paid for his goods. She's free to go any time she chooses, he said. But I hope she stays. When he returned home, he found Clara in the garden, harvesting vegetables. She straightened when she saw him, pushing a strand of hair from her face, leaving a smudge of dirt on her cheek. Welcome back, she said. Something warm unfurled in Samuel's chest. It's good to be home, he replied, and meant it. That evening, he gave her the fabric. Thought you might want something new to wear, he said. Clara ran her fingers over the soft cotton. Thank you, she said. I'll start on it tomorrow. There's no rush. Clara smiled. I know. That's why I want to do it. A month after Clara's arrival, Samuel began work on the addition to the house. Clara helped, learning to measure and saw, to hammer nails. They worked side by side, their movements falling into an easy rhythm. During a water break, Clara asked, Did you and Margaret plan to have children? Samuel wiped sweat from his brow. We did. It didn't happen for us. I'm sorry. Samuel shrugged. It was a long time ago. Do you still want them? Children. Samuel looked at her, really looked at her. I'm an old man, Clara. You're not so old. Samuel picked up his hammer. What about you? Do you want children? Clara was quiet for a moment. I used to dream of it. A child to love, to raise differently than I was raised. She shook her head. But dreams change. They do, Samuel agreed. Sometimes they get replaced by better ones. As summer turned to fall, the days grew shorter. The addition to the house was finished, a proper bedroom for Samuel, allowing Clara to keep the upstairs room. They fell into comfortable routines. Clara's reading improved. She devoured Samuel's books in the evenings. Samuel found himself talking more than he had in years, sharing stories of his youth, of his time with Margaret, of his dreams for the ranch. One crisp October morning, they rode out to check on a distant pasture. The leaves on the cottonwoods had turned golden, shimmering in the breeze. They stopped by a stream for lunch, sitting on sun-warmed rocks. Winter will be here soon, Samuel said. Clara nodded. Will we be snowed in? likely for a few days at a time. Does that worry you? Clara considered. No, not anymore. Samuel broke off a piece of bread, offered it to her. Their fingers brushed. Clara, he said, his voice low. Are you happy here? She met his gaze steadily. Yes, I am. The arrangement we made, it doesn't have to be more than it is now. If this is all you want, it's enough for me. Clara set down her bread. And if I want more? Samuel's heart beat faster. Then that would be a gift I'd cherish. Clara moved closer, until she was sitting beside him on the rock. Slowly, giving him time to pull away, she leaned her head against his shoulder. Samuel's arm came around her, tentative at first, then more secure. They sat like that for a long time, watching the stream flow past, feeling the sun on their faces. That night, Clara came to Samuel's new room. She stood in the doorway, a question in her eyes. Samuel held out his hand. She took it, and he drew her to him, slowly, carefully. Their kiss was gentle, a beginning rather than a demand. Later, lying beside her in the darkness, Samuel traced the scars on her back with a feather-light touch. Who did this to you? He asked. My father, Clara replied. Then my husband. They were similar men. Samuel pressed his lips to her shoulder. I'll never hurt you, Clara. I swear it. She turned to face him, cupped his cheek in her palm. I know, she said. That's why I'm here. The first snow came in November, blanketing the ranch in white. They watched it fall from the window, wrapped in a quilt before the fire. I've been thinking, Samuel said. Would you like to make this official? A proper marriage, in town with the preacher? Clara was quiet for so long that Samuel began to worry. We don't have to, he added. Things can stay as they are. It's not that, Clara said. It's just. I never thought I'd want to be married again. After everything. I understand. Clara turned to face him. But I do want it. With you. She smiled. I want to be Clara Hayes, properly. Samuel kissed her, his heart full. When the snow cleared enough for travel, they rode into town. The ceremony was simple, just them, the preacher, and his wife as witness. Clara wore a dress she'd made from the fabric Samuel had bought, deep blue like the evening sky. Samuel wore his one good shirt, freshly pressed. They spoke their vows in clear, steady voices. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Samuel kissed Clara with reverence. The shopkeeper's wife hosted a small reception at her home. The townspeople were curious about Clara, but she met their questions with quiet dignity. By the end of the evening, she'd won over most of them with her genuine warmth and quick wit. As they rode home in the fading light, Samuel reached across to take Clara's hand. Mrs. Hayes, he said, testing the sound of it. Clara squeezed his hand. Mr. Hayes, she replied, a smile in her voice. At the ranch, Samuel lifted Clara from her horse and carried her across the threshold. She laughed, a free, joyous sound that echoed in the quiet house. Later, as they lay together in the darkness, Clara whispered, I never thought I'd find peace like this. Samuel pulled her closer. Nor I. Do you believe in second chances, Samuel? I do now, he said, and kissed her forehead. The winter passed in quiet contentment. They weathered the storms together, finding joy in simple pleasures, reading by the fire, cooking meals, planning for spring planting. When Clara missed her monthly time, they dared not hope too quickly. But as weeks passed and her body changed, the truth became undeniable. A baby, Samuel said, his hand resting gently on her still flat stomach. Our baby. Clara covered his hand with hers. Are you happy? Samuel's eyes shone. More than I can say. As spring returned to the plains, bringing new life to the land, Clara's body rounded with their child. Samuel watched over her with tender concern, insisting she rest, taking on more of the work himself. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, a wagon approached. Samuel stood, instantly alert. Clara rose more slowly, one hand on her swollen belly. The wagon stopped in the yard. A man climbed down, the same driver who had delivered Clara nearly a year before. Samuel moved to stand in front of Clara. What do you want? The driver spat. Got another delivery heading this way. Thought you might be interested. Since your first purchase worked out so well. He grinned, revealing his tobacco-stained teeth. Clara stepped forward, her hand finding Samuel's. We're not interested, she said firmly. The driver shrugged. Suit yourself. Plenty of lonely men out here willing to pay. Samuel's voice was cold. Get off my land. Don't come back. The driver climbed back onto his wagon. As he turned to leave, he called back. She's still giving you your money's worth, Hayes? Before Samuel could respond, Clara spoke. My husband doesn't own me, she said clearly. No one does. Not anymore. The driver laughed and flicked the reins. The wagon rolled away, dust rising behind it. Samuel turned to Clara, concern in his eyes. Are you all right? Clara nodded, her hand still on her belly. I am. She looked at the retreating wagon. But those women aren't. That night, they talked long into the darkness. About chains, both visible and invisible. About freedom and choice. About the future they wanted to build. We could help them, Clara said. Women like I was. How? Offer them a safe place. Just until they can decide what they truly want. Samuel considered. It would mean changes. Building more rooms. More mouths to feed. Yes. It could be dangerous. Men don't like having their property taken. Clara's voice was steel. Women aren't property. Samuel nodded slowly. No, they're not. He took her hand. If this is what you want to do, I'm with you. Clara's smile was like the sunrise. Thank you. In late summer, their daughter was born. They named her Margaret Freedom Hayes. Maggie, they called her, this miracle with Clara's eyes and Samuel's quiet nature. As autumn painted the plains in gold and crimson, Samuel built another addition to the house, 3 small rooms, simple but comfortable. Clara sewed curtains, made up beds with fresh linens. And they waited. The first woman arrived on a cold November day, brought by the local preacher who had heard of their offer. She was young, barely 20, with haunted eyes and a bruised face. Her name was Emily. Clara welcomed her, showed her to a room of her own. Give her a key to the door. You can stay as long as you need, Clara told her. No chains here. Just choices. Emily stayed through the winter, helping with Maggie, learning to cook from Clara, to work with the horses from Samuel. By spring, she had saved enough from the wages Samuel paid her to buy a ticket to San Francisco, where her aunt lived. The day she left, Emily hugged Clara fiercely. You saved my life, she whispered. Clara shook her head. You saved yourself. We just gave you room to do it. More women came. Some stayed a few weeks, some months. A few, like Rebecca with her quiet strength and Sarah with her quick laugh, stayed on permanently, becoming part of the growing ranch. 2 years after Maggie's birth, Clara gave Samuel a son. They named him John Samuel Hayes after Samuel's father. Johnny grew strong on the plains air, toddling after his sister, reaching for the sky with chubby hands. On the 5th anniversary of Clara's arrival, Samuel took her to the big cottonwood tree at the edge of the property. He carried a small wooden box. I want to show you something, he said. He knelt and dug in the earth at the base of the tree. When the hole was deep enough, he placed the box inside. What is that? Clara asked. The chains, Samuel said. I kept them, all this time. To remind me. Clara knelt beside him, her hand on his arm. Of what? Of how close I came to missing this life. Of how easily freedom can be taken. He covered the box with earth, patted it down. I don't need the reminder anymore. We're building something better now. Clara leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. In the distance, they could see the ranch house, smoke rising from the chimney. Children's laughter carried on the wind. From chains to choices, Clara murmured. Samuel kissed the top of her head, and every link between. They walked back to the house hand in hand, the setting sun casting their shadows long across the plains. Behind them, the cottonwood's leaves rustled in the breeze, a gentle witness to buried chains and hard-won freedom. Total _char_count, 26,438.